Good morning. We are here live with, again, another presentation uh, from the Houston Tech Rodeo. And this is the Aerospace Space Track. And today's presentation, this session is Houston Spaceport Launchpad to the Future. Today we're honored to have Jimmy Spence with us, who is with the Houston Airport system and engaged with and managing much of our efforts at the Houston Spaceport at Ellington Airport, very near to NASA. Jimmy, welcome today. Your background includes a lot of work in this domain, including your work with Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership and partnering with NASA and JSE to procure state funding for educational and small businesses. We look forward to you talking today about the development of Spaceport, a little bit of the history, as well as what's happening there today. So without any further delay, I'd like Jimmy to take it away and have fun and enjoy this information on how you can all be part of this history being made and further development of Houston's Space City. Thanks, Jimmy.
Well, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate it. I thank you to Houston Exponential for putting this together, and the Houston Tech Rodeo for having us. I think that it's great that we've included a space and aerospace track this year to kind of broaden what Houston technology is all about. They've, the aerospace industry has really been booming over the last couple of years, really the last almost decade now, and happy to be part of it. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides and kind of get started here. I need to be enabled in order to share slides, though. Currently not able to do that. So I'll just start by saying, until we can get that resolved, that the Spaceport is a great opportunity for Houston. We're happy to be able to push forward Houston Aerospace in the region. There's been a long history here at Ellington of firsts that we've been privileged to take part of. Ellington was actually started in 1917 as a World War I training facility. So it's one of the oldest airfields in the country. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary back in 2017. And that makes a lot of sense for why we're,
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, this is Paul again. Sorry to interrupt. I think the share screen didn't operate because I don't see any of your slides.
Yeah, so I'm currently not allowed to share my screen.
Hold on. Okay, just a second. We will get that corrected immediately. Sorry, everybody.
Oh no, it's okay.
For that.
I'm just gonna
here I'm noticing this. I'm thinking, okay, maybe you're seeing something I'm not seeing.
No, but just like I was saying, Ellington has a long storied history, and so the Spaceport's a logical extension of that. In the 60s, when NASA started, Ellington was one of the first places that NASA was located in the run up to the construction of the Johnson Space Center. And let's see here. Here we go. Now we got it.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Sorry about
this. It's not going to change my rambling here, just so everybody's aware. But let's see, let's start the slideshow here. I think we got it. Everybody good? Can see everything okay? Paul, can we see everything okay? Just out of curiosity, make sure I'm not on my presenter screen. All right, so I think that should work. Let's do one more here. Okay, so as I was saying, 1917 was the start of Ellington, started as a World War I training center, and then in the 60s, it was kind of the first home of NASA here in Houston. It's served as temporary offices and space for NASA as they were building the Manned Spaceflight Center, later known as Johnson Space Center for NASA. And it has since then been the home for astronaut training when it comes to aeronautical training. We've also had the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, which has been training astronauts for the with their giant pool over here for spacewalks and space EVAs and things like that. To kind of give you an idea of how long Ellington has been doing this kind of thing and how important they've been to NASA, I kind of want to show a quick video here that I think that folks will enjoy. This is the lunar lander simulator that NASA used to train astronauts as they were going to land on the moon for the Apollo missions. So what you see here is Neil Armstrong piloting this thing, and I got to say, this is a pretty unstable vehicle, to say the least, as is the lunar lander. It took a lot of training. This has a giant jet engine on the bottom of it that's used to simulate the moon's gravity, and then has smaller engines to help correct and operate as if it was landing on the moon. This is actually something that happens out at Ellington Field, right behind me, right outside my window. And it's crazy that they had this kind of machine as a simulator, I think. You see he's about to touch down. Neil Armstrong describes this as the scariest day in his life. Even scarier, I guess, than landing on the moon. As you can see, the simulator kind of gets away from him here. And once that thing gets going sideways, it's never a good thing. So he has to bail out, and lunar module simulator crashes. So this to give you kind of an idea of how important the history has been for NASA and for aerospace here at Ellington and the Houston Spaceport. Ellington was purchased by the city of Houston in 1984. A third airport for the Houston airport system. It's had a brief stint of commercial flights that went from Ellington all the way to Bush for about 10 years or so. It was the shortest commuter flight in the country. It's one of our things. And in that time, we also had activities at the airfield, military, NASA, of course, Texas Air National Guard, Army National Guard, those folks. We've always maintained a military presence here at Ellington. But then we had these 440 acres on the southeast side that were just kind of sitting barren. And it was great for producing hay, but we really didn't have much else going on with it. And so in 2012, we began in earnest to look at what a spaceport could be in Houston. Obviously, we couldn't launch rockets from Houston in the traditional sense, but when it came to the advances in space that were happening in aerospace that were brought on by things like composite material technology, additive manufacturing technology, advances in communication, the barriers to entry into aerospace kind of started to go down. And we thought that Houston could serve as a hub for the future of aviation, suborbital transport from point to point, and satellite launches. And so we started rolling with that. And from 2012, we started doing studies on that. Mario Diaz had a great vision for this, really forward thinking to prepare Houston to have the infrastructure to take advantage of these technologies as they came along. It doesn't make any sense to build an airport after planes are invented. You have to have somewhere to fly them, right? So we didn't want to have a hypersonic plane invented and not have somewhere in Houston that people could take advantage of that. And because of our urban location, we really realized that it couldn't be the kind of R&D mecca that you might find in spaceports that are further out, places like Mojave, Spaceport America, things like that. It really needed to be a different approach to how Spaceport was developed. And so we decided to from the beginning, take more of an economic development approach to it. We thought that what we needed to do is build kind of a center of gravity where the aerospace industry can continue to grow in Houston, take advantage of the commercial industry that's kind of burgeoning, and create the assets that are necessary for these launch providers, these operators, when they're ready, when the technology is ready to be put out. And so we get our license in 2015, and we become the 10th licensed spaceport in the country by the FAA, the 10th licensed commercial spaceport in the country. There's now 12. And so we start from there, again, from an economic development perspective, we start trying to attract companies to come. The problem is that initially, the only thing that we have is the same piece of land, and now we have a license and a cool name. Houston Spaceport is a cool name, so super marketable. And we start trying to attract companies. And we have several really close projects that we come really close to winning. A supersonic jet manufacturer. We were working with Blue Origin to land the BE-4 engine manufacturing plant. But at the time, we had a lot of great plans, a lot of great intentions. We had very strong partnerships with folks in the community. We had support from our elected officials. But there's an old saying that says, you know, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, so is the path to lost projects. So you could say that they're one and the same. But what we learned from these lost projects was that we needed more substance there. We really needed to demonstrate that we had commitment and investment from the city, from the community, in the forms of physical, tangible things. And so as we start moving ahead, we start working with folks and start looking for easy wins to kind of boost up the infrastructure for the spaceport and to make our area more attractive to potential clients and potential tenants of the spaceport. First thing we do is we purchase a building that we call the HASC, the Houston Aerospace Support Center. This is a building that Boeing used to own. It was used to integrate payloads for the space station. Their last work they were doing there was engineering on their CST-100 Starliner, the commercial capsule that they will be soon, I believe, testing in a few months for their second flight tests. And so we now have a problem. We now have a building that's on the spaceport. It's a great building, 53,000 square feet, high bay, clean rooms, all this good stuff. That's great infrastructure for the spaceport and fit right in with what we were trying to do in our approach to the development of the spaceport. So we get that. And one of the things that we learned from the BE-4 engine loss, which we came in second, by the way, to Huntsville, Alabama, which blew our mind because we're Houston and they're Huntsville, Alabama. And we didn't realize how far we had to go. And so what we did is we started working with San Jacinto College to establish a workforce development center at the spaceport that could partner with companies that could provide the type of training that they needed, on demand, customized education, certificates, all that good stuff, focused on aerospace. And we didn't know how to do it. And so again, we got our partners together. We worked with the Barry Houston Economic Partnership, San Jack, us here at the Houston Airport System, Rice University, David Alexander went around with us, and we started touring. We start looking around for best practices of what everybody else was doing in aerospace education. We went to Huntsville, Alabama, to the folks that beat us for the BE-4 engine and looked at what they were doing. We went to Jackson, Mississippi. We went to Prestwick, Scotland. We went to Wichita, which was an amazing experience. If you've never been to the now Wichita State Technical University, they're doing things right over there. We went to Corpus Christi. We went to Prestwick, Scotland. We really wanted to get a good handle on what folks were doing in aerospace education, what fit for Houston and what would be right. And San Jacinto College were all in from the very get-go. They've been a great partner this entire time, really understand what we're trying to do here at the Spaceport. We've been very lucky to have them. And so we decided that, you know, a good place for them is our new HASC building, that they could take some of the office space that's there and turn that into classrooms. And then we needed to have a partner that could occupy the manufacturing floor and kind of work together. So that's exactly what we did. We worked with them for a few months, put together curriculum, put together an industry board to work with them so that we could identify what was needed in Houston aerospace education. And the Edge Center is what we came up with. We also needed new infrastructure on the airfield that could support the spaceport. So in 2017, we began construction on a new tower, a new modern air traffic control tower for the airport that could not only have the equipment that would be needed to help integrate space flight into the airspace, but also provide mission control space for companies that would want to use that IT infrastructure and equipment. And so we worked with the state of Texas to get a grant, and we worked with the area Houston Partnership again to help with that grant and help get this thing built. And in 2019, we were able to cut the ribbon on this. It was great for Ellington for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that the previous air traffic control tower was was being supported by wind supports after Hurricane Ike. It had taken quite a hit during Hurricane Ike and desperately needed to be replaced. So win-win all the way around. Again, adding value for tenants for the future. The next step is our phase one development. The other thing that we knew we didn't have was roads and streets, and again, tangible things that people could see when it came to the spaceport and where they could locate. So we needed roads, we needed infrastructure, electricity, internet, all that good stuff, communications. And so again, with help from the EDA, we started putting in infrastructure here at the spaceport to actually provide these roads and provide shovel-ready sites for folks that were interested in locating at the spaceport. No longer did we have to have plans for infrastructure again, we had actual infrastructure in place. So this expansion of phase one, this infrastructure, basically opened up 150 acres of land that's developable. It's kind of where we're at right now. We just finished this up earlier this year. Have a beautiful monument sign out front, lights, trees, all that good stuff. And again, shovel-ready sites for companies that are ready to join us here at the Spaceport, which we'll talk about a couple of those companies in just a second. We had these folks that, again, started working with them in probably 2013, 2014. A little company called Intuitive Machines. They agreed to move into the Houston Aerospace Support Center. They partnered with San Jack on a lot of their training activities, and slowly began to develop as a company. We say like it's a company, if it's a company that started in the garage, then it was our garage that they got started in. We're very proud of the accomplishments that made. They've been working on things like long range fixed wing drones. They had a great tethered drone experiment they were working on, a lot of autonomous and remotely controlled activities and technologies that I have to think they helped put into things like their Nova Sea lander, which I'll say in just a second. We've been testing their LOX methane engine here at Ellington, which has been awesome to get to go see. These folks have been working on it for quite a while, and this engine is going to be what propels their Nova Sea lander to the moon. This is a really important accomplishment. This is going to, it's a kind of a race right now, but it could be the first piece of American hardware to land on the moon since the Apollo missions. So the they're part of the CLIPS program. And what's really great about this is that it's not just that NASA is building a new lander. This is a commercial company that is developing a lander where NASA will be one of the customers of this. But you know what? So can anybody else. Anybody can purchase a ride to deliver payload to the lunar surface, which is first time in history. Very happy to see it, see NASA kind of changing the way that they do things and kind of deliver a new system that encourages businesses to also be involved in the space program. They've been manufacturing here at the HASC and at Spaceport. Very happy to have them. Additive manufacturing, you know, is one of those technologies of the future. It's the now, but it's going to definitely be used more and more for not only here, but manufacturing on the moon, manufacturing on Mars and other places. Recently, we made the announcement. In fact, we just finalized a memorandum of agreement with Axiom Space. Axiom Space is one of these great companies, again, Houston-grown, Houston-based startup. They were selected by NASA to attach a module to the International Space Station. These folks are going to then grow that module, attach a few more onto it, and then in 2024, I believe, Cam Gafarian might have just said something different, so I defer to him. They'll be putting out, undocking from the space station and basically building the first commercial space station, which again is revolutionary for a number of reasons, but most importantly, in my mind, from the business perspective, it's a commercial company that's doing this. This isn't NASA that's building the space station. It is a private company, and they'll be able to use their turnkey service to do astronaut training and to put folks up in the space station, not only from here, but from other countries. Private individuals that have an interest in going to space, either for tourism reasons or research reasons. There's a lot of good stuff to come from Axiom. Very excited to have them agree to locate at the spaceport. It says 14-acre facility. I believe it's actually a 22-acre facility is where they landed on their footprint. And then this is just hot off the presses. Just yesterday, the Houston City Council passed the ordinance for Collins Aerospace to be located at the Houston Spaceport. This was a long time coming. We've been working with Collins. Bayhep has been working with Collins for a while, trying to get this thing going. It's very exciting. They're going to put in a 120,000 square foot new campus to do a lot of human space related activities. I believe that there's going to be some manufacturing of communication parts there, things like that. But one of the most exciting things is that they will also be hosting a 10,000 square foot space flight incubator for startup companies that want to collaborate with the companies that are located here at the spaceport, with universities or schools that may be interested in collaborating at the spaceport. This is going to be focused on space flight and aerospace, and we're very excited to have that as not only a business development, but part of the community development, right? We want to be able to grow these companies. We want to provide the space, no pun intended. We want to provide the space for these companies that are starting up to get their feet underneath them, to collaborate with the folks that can help them out and really get them going. And then recently, the Venus Aerospace folks had announced that they are going to be locating at the Houston Spaceport. Very excited for these guys to be here, because it really represents exactly what we want to be able to support at the Houston Spaceport. This is a company that has moved from California to Houston to grow their business. Their plane and technology that they're working on will travel 12 times faster than the speed of sound. Basically gets a rocket boost, takes off normal, goes out over to the Gulf of Mexico, kicks on a rocket engine, gets up to suborbital altitude, and it gets up to Mach 12 and just coasts down to where they're going to land from there. They're planning on building about a 250,000 square foot facility on around 13 acres here at the Spaceport. And it's, again, the reason why it's the type of company we really want to see is that the idea of hypersonic flight and space travel is exactly the end goal for the Houston Spaceport. It's really what we envisioned when we started this whole thing off. So we're happy to have them. In fact, you know, hypersonic travel, I think that people kind of view that as a far off thing, but just yesterday, the JAXA announced that they have plans to begin passenger point-to-point transportation starting in 2040, which is aligned with about where we thought we would be with our hypersonic plane development. And this morning, just this morning, I had a conversation with the folks at Spaceport Japan, who are building towards the same thing, which kind of brings me to the next thing I was going to talk about, which is the importance of partnerships. You know, behind us every step of the way. I can't say enough about the support from Mayor Turner, the former mayor, Anise Parker, the members of City Council that have supported us along the way and really seem to take a certain amount of pride in growing Space City. But we couldn't do it also without the federal government buying in, without the state government buying in, without the educational partners that we've been able to communicate with, without the international partners that we've been able to communicate with and sign memorandums of understanding with. The folks in the community, folks like the Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership, the folks like the Greater Houston Partnership have all done a lot to help us along the way and really provide some of the opportunities that we've been able to take advantage of. So that aerospace, but across different industries in the city. You know, when we talk about some of the great industries in Houston, we talk about energy, things like hydrogen fuel. Energy 2.0 is going to play a big part in the advancement of aerospace. And I hope that aerospace is also going to play a large role in the advancement of Energy 2.0 and the advancement of the life sciences industry. You know, Houston is home for human spaceflight, and the folks that already work with NASA on the ISS and human health and performance, we hope to be able to further that, which, you know, you can see that we are able to do that through not only the things that NASA is doing, but also what's going to happen with Axiom and the research that folks are going to be doing about aboard their commercial space station. Again, you see the tie-ins with the way that additive manufacturing and advancements in manufacturing are going to take place when it comes to the activities of intuitive machines and delivering payloads to the moon. Some of that stuff that they're going to be delivering eventually will be manufacturing equipment to build stuff on the moon. I mean, it all kind of ties back into the history and legacy of what's been happening in the Houston area and the industries that have been represented and kind of moving forward. And another big partnership that we are interested in is developing further educational activity at the Spaceport. So right now we're working with several area universities, with UH Clear Lake, with Rice, with TSU, with Texas A&M, and with San Jacinto College to develop an aerospace and aviation training institute that's just a working title for right now. Kind of feel like it should be the Jimmy Spence home for education and technical education. We'll see how that goes. But we hope to be able to grow that footprint and create a facility out here that will allow folks to kind of have stackable credentials where if you want to see yourself in aerospace in the future, come out here, you start doing technical training, maybe even as early as 6th, 7th grade. Come and get your associate's degree, come and get your mid-career training, your bachelor's degree, your graduate research degree. I should say, right, we're also working with Rice to see if we can't do some type of research, graduate level research out here with all that as well. Anyways, all that to say that we want you to be able to go, I'd say, 6th through PhD with coming to the spaceport, getting education from the folks that are located out here with the overwatch of the companies that are located out here and experience and exposure to the companies that are located out here. And we also want this to be kind of a cross-industry breakdown, right? We want to be able to provide training that's not only useful in the aerospace industry, but also in the energy sector and in life sciences, because a lot of that stuff overlaps and we want to be able to take advantage of that. And these partnerships are really important. We want to be able to use the spaceport as an asset for Houston, not just for Houston Aerospace, right? So we want to work with folks all across the region and try to break down some of these silos that we have, where we can find common ground and common ways to advance and common ways to promote this city and grow our economy overall. We think that's really important. And finally, the last kind of near-term next steps plan is what's called Taxiway Lima. This is something that we're very, very excited about. The taxiway will run along what we have is runway 422 and basically provide access on the air side for the spaceport development. Pretty important stuff when we're trying to launch planes that will be launching spacecraft. But what this is going to in effect do is open up 440 acres to the air side of Ellington. It's almost like opening up a whole new airport, which we intend to be able to use for things like hypersonic, supersonic aircraft. We want to be able to use for folks like Virgin Orbit that are launching payloads into space, use from some of these operators that'll be utilizing the spaceport as a traditional spaceport, as well as being able to take advantage of this ecosystem that we've kind of developed, the center of gravity of aerospace activity that we have at the spaceport that's beginning to grow. And we have more announcements on the way. Can't say too much about them right now, but there's other great stuff in the pipeline, and we're very excited to have it. And so with that, I thank you for having me, and I'd be happy to, if anybody has questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So what questions do you have for me is what I have to say to you. All right, so let's see, got one here. What are the key determinants for location of a launch site? So when it comes to traditional launch, by that I mean vertical launches. So vertical launches have to take place somewhere that allows them access to a good orbit, be an equatorial orbit. Could be that there's a polar orbit that the company or launch provider is trying to take advantage of. Those are vertical launches and require specific geographical conditions. Not only that, you have to be over somewhere that if there's an incident, if there's something that happens, doesn't cause harm to a population. So that's why Florida, for instance, is such a great location for launching space shuttles. The Apollo program that NASA's used forever. It's right there on the the Atlantic Ocean. It can launch out, and if something happens, it falls into the ocean. It's not going to hurt a neighborhood or anything like that. With horizontal takeoff and landing, you can have something in an urban area, and because of our proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, we actually have a corridor where we can get out over the Gulf of Mexico. So a plane can take off from an urban area like Houston. It can go out over to the Gulf of Mexico, point its nose up, launch a payload from a missile type delivery system that goes into orbit, or a suborbital plane that will be going up to those high altitudes, can launch its rockets and from there and go up. So we have that advantage of not being strapped down by geography with horizontal launches. That's what makes it so appealing. Next up, does the commercial space transportation industry get funding or support from the U.S. government? That's a interesting question. So when it comes to the development of some of the things that I was talking about in my presentation, things like the Intuitive Machines Nova Sea lander, Axiom Space, there is a certain amount of development input that NASA gives them. That's the U.S. federal government, and they do support to some degree. When it comes to things like the Spaceport, not quite as much. So the FAA is kind of in this transition phase where it's learning how to incorporate things like spaceport and space transportation into the airspace and everything else. So it's, like I said, a little bit of a transition period right now, not as much as you'd think. But anyways, I can see that I am over time. So thank you all very much for having me. I really do appreciate it. I believe that we'll be moving on to the next presentation shortly. So again, thank you all very much.
Mr. Spence, thank you for taking the time speaking with us on this panel and letting us know about this important information with regards to the spaceport. And I'll also like to thank the Houston Tech Rodeo for hosting this event. Thank you for your time, and until next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
sir.